The coronavirus pandemic has altered the Canadian real estate market in many ways. Whether these changes are permanent or not remains to be seen. On today's show, we will have a conversation on renting versus owning. For that, please join me in welcoming Jay Banerjei, our real estate expert, to the show. Thank you so much for being here, Jay.
It's good to be here, Molly.
All right. So, with all these changes that are
Mhm.
happening in the market,
Yes,
is this a good time for people to buy? Or should they continue to
absolutely.
rent?
Well, if one can afford it, this is a great time to buy because the future of real estate in Toronto is actually going up. If somebody buys today, even through the pandemic, as long as you can afford it, have benefits to you long term.
All right. So, give us some more deeper understanding in terms of why we should, because the people are afraid. You know, they feel that, you know, if I buy, what if I lose my job? You know, the market, job market is a little uncertain.
Sure.
And so people are afraid, you know, what will happen.
Yes.
And so, what are some of the concerns that people have? And is it advantageous to
Sure.
purchase as opposed to continuing to rent?
Great. So, first and foremost, I'll say everybody out there watching is either paying a mortgage or paying rent. Let's assume you're paying rent and you have a job concern and you lose your job for a short time. And everybody rebounds in the end. Does it mean that you're going to stop paying rent?
You see, that's the thing that a lot of people don't think about.
That's right.
Right? Because they think that, well, if I lose my
Yes.
job, my
Yes.
landlord is going to be kind.
That's right.
Right? They're not going to evict me, which is not necessarily true.
That's exactly. However, I'll let you know, most of the banks have a clause in there. If you go through hardship, you can call the bank and get 1, even 2 months of mortgage free. It's called a mortgage vacation on your mortgage, if and when necessary,
That's right.
which you don't
So
get in rent.
we don't get in rent.
So,
Right, because you know it's not necessarily. Let's talk a little bit about this. It's
sure.
not necessarily that you know landlords are mean spirited.
No, 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 no,
You
no.
know they're just regular people.
They
They
have
don't
bills.
have
Exactly.
right. Most of them don't have those cash reserves, and if they're renting their property, whether it could be a condo or a house, they chances are they have a mortgage on it. They're paying taxes on it, and utilities sometimes are also included in that. And so a lot of them are just looking just to cover their own cost, right? And so if the tenants don't pay, right, many times they don't have a choice.
They don't have a choice.
They don't have a choice.
That's right.
So bear that in mind. They're not bad people. I mean, put yourself in their shoes as well and think, you know, if you were one of those people, what would you do?
Exactly. And by the way, I wrote down 4 points, if I can share with the viewers, 4 points benefits of owning your own home, which you asked me about.
Okay.
First of all, you build equity. When you own a home, you're paying a mortgage, which means you're paying down half to 3/4 of every payment. You're paying it down and down, down towards your own self. That's huge. Number two, it is generally, and in Toronto is always, a good investment because the rate of return is a minimum of 5%. So let's say you take a house. Let's just take 500,000. There's no home for 500. Let's just take even a 1-bedroom condo. 500,000, and it goes up 5%. In 5 years, that's 25% growth. So on $1 million, that's $250,000, is $125,000. Where can you earn that kind of money?
Right. And so another thing that everybody needs to know is that when you are renting, right, you are paying a mortgage.
You are paying a mortgage.
It's just not yours.
That's right.
Right? So if you have to pay a mortgage, why not pay your own?
That's right. Number 3 is stability. With a fixed rate mortgage, your payment is fixed for 5 years, while a landlord could hike up within reason, but they can hike up your rent. What happens then?
What happens then? And I have shared this story in previous years with you. And if you've been with us, you've heard this story. You know, a number of years ago, I had a lady call frantically looking to buy a house. And I said to her, well, what's the urgency? I mean, we will help you buy, but what is the urgency? And she says, my landlord has sold the house that I was living in. And so then, you know, she said that I had rented this place for 35 years.
Wow.
Right? For 35 years, she rented that place. And at the end of that, I guess, the landlord decided that they were going to sell the property. And it only takes, by the way, 25 years to pay a house off. So she paid the house off, gave them another 10 years of, you know, money, and even then had no stability.
Nothing to show for.
And nothing to show for.
And that comes down to the other point, the number 4, is in addition to building equity, growing your investment, having stability, you also have more privacy. Who doesn't want privacy?
Okay, talk to us a little bit more about that.
Well, there's no landlord policing your every move.
Right.
I mean, in your own house, you can change things around. You could build another room inside if you had to. You could paint it how
color
you wanted to. But there are limitations. In fact, it's in the contract. So you are limited. You want to have the freedom that every Canadian should have. It starts by owning your home.
That's right. And I just want to also mention, because
Yes.
I've heard from tenants, some
Yes.
of them have said that, you know, landlords are very intrusive in terms of what happens on their property. And so it appears that these are some people who are renting or their properties, they're new Canadians and they don't know the laws of this land. You know, once you rent your property, the person who's renting from you has every right to enjoy a peaceful use of that property. So you're not allowed to just barge in and go into their property without proper notice or without proper reason, right? So bear that in mind as well. Go ahead.
Yes. Then the other thing would be if one is renting, there are some of the other downsides of renting a home. You're not building equity. The landlord is the boss. And we've heard of some horror stories about deadbeat landlords and surprise eviction notices.
Well, I just shared something with you.
Exactly. Then comes down to instability is in accordance, as I mentioned already, in accordance with the laws, the landlord can hike up the rent, and that spike could mean now you're packing every couple of years and moving to another place. For families with children, that is so difficult.
Right. So, so what are some more benefits to owning? You know, when you own, you're also building equity.
Building equity.
And so, I would also like to point out that people, we know everything is really, really expensive in a city like Toronto.
Yes.
Right? So people don't usually have a whole lot of money that they can put away into savings. Right? So the money that you're putting into your house to pay it down generally ends up being a large chunk of your savings towards the end.
And there's something else. Did you know that your home and what you earn in your home, let's say you buy a home today for $700,000. After 10 years, it's worth $1.2 million, for example. Now you have a growth of $500,000. In any Canadian business or enterprise, you are taxed on that money. Am I right? Your own home, the growth in your home, not to mention what you're paying off, is absolutely tax-free. It is the only thing.
Principal residence.
Your principal residence, has no capital gain, zero.
Right. So that's a great incentive,
Right.
because on everything else, you know, we end up paying taxes, whatever.
Yes.
First of all, there's no guarantee of any growth in investment. Now, people have lost so much money in stock market. You know, they gain a lot of money, but they can lose overnight as well. But real estate is here to stay, and if it happens to be your principal residence, then you're living there. You're enjoying that property.
And on that note, something else occurred to me is that, you see, in the stock market, you win big or you lose it all. In real estate today, you buy a home with the values going up. If there is a calamity and you can't manage your payments, worst case scenario, you can sell the property and walk away even with some cash in hand today. And that means you keep your equity.
Absolutely. So it makes absolutely no sense. Now, I do understand that there are times when we do have to rent. We also rented. Everybody starts off by renting. And if you are there, there's nothing wrong with that, right? So, but having said that, you don't want to remain in that place. So start to look into possibilities of what needs to be done. And so if you are one of those people, contact us. We can be reached at
647 273 1119.
and we will create a personalized program for you that can help you reach the goal that you have of owning your own property. Thank you very much for being here and sharing your wisdom with us.
My pleasure.
And we look forward to hearing from you. Go ahead and make that phone call now. And where can they reach you one more time?
647 273 1119.